city. Goins' name is prominent in gold script on the recto. His monogram on the verso is intertwined capital letters, a black J, a white M, and a striated G, followed by the inscription, "Duplicates of this can be had at any time at a reduced price as negative is preserved." Such statements were typical to help promote additional sales. Ball and Thomas also used their intertwined initials on backmarks. Millward could have chosen any photographer. There were 41 in Cincinnati at the time, but Goins was the only African-American one. Millward may have deliberately selected Goins to demonstrate an alliance with someone else who was marginalized in society, or he may have engaged with him because of proximity. The studio was just a couple of blocks from the Dime Museum. Can you imagine transporting Serpents to a photographer's studio? He had to walk. And this is the way Ray Street looked at the time. In May of 1888, Goins advertised 1 dozen cabinet cards for only $2 and promised the public, "I superintend every sitting personally." The pressure of increased business was mounting. That July, Goins was arrested for drunk and disorderly conduct and abusing his family. The following March, 1889, the Cincinnati Gazette proclaimed, "Today there is but one of the many photographers of the race doing business in Cincinnati. That is the inimitable James M. Goins, who essays art in all its branches and is styled the artistic photographer." Goins advertised astonishingly low prices, inducing a rush of trade for nearly 5,000 prints requiring an advance deposit. Such a marketing strategy was not an uncommon practice. Perhaps overwhelmed by the workload, Goins drank heavily at night, neglecting his studio during the day. It had been noticed that for a long time he was laboring under mental trouble. He would walk up and down the street and seemed to be in misery. Goins spoke of going to Boston, Vancouver Island, and Canada. On Wednesday, December 4th, 1889, Goins bade his employees farewell and walked out of the gallery at noon. The Cincinnati Enquirer reported on his disappearance 5 days later with the headline, "Jim Goins Gone, a colored photographer's sudden flight." Friends, worried that he might have taken his life, took over the studio and attempted to bring shape out of chaos. While this situation was partly because of Goins' personal challenges, photography studios of the era often faced chronic financial instability, and many photographers were peripatetic, creating and leaving studios in various locations. Goins resurfaced in Chicago by 1900, perhaps following the lead of his former supervisor, Alexander Thomas, who had retired by 1889 and moved there. Rachel Kyle was Goins' widow and widowed landlord in the 1900 Chicago census, where he is listed as single. However, in the 1910 census of Chicago, the two are listed with the same surname and a marriage 18 years long, so the wedding would have been around 1892. The census taker of 1910 may have misheard 8 years of marriage as 18. In 1920, Goins was widowed, living as a patient at the Oak Forest Infirmary, also known as the Cook County Poorhouse, previously a badly run mental institution. He had died of cardiovascular renal degeneration on July 26, 1921. Only 2 other cabinet cards are known by Goins, both portraits in public collections. No additional imagery by him has yet surfaced. And so, this cabinet card is a true marvel, a startling image of a rare American male and circus and sideshow snake charmer surrounded by serpents in a studio setting by a skilled African-American photographer in Ohio in the late 1880s. Produced in large numbers as souvenirs and for collectors of celebrity portraits, the image was meant to generate profits for both Goins and Millward. That a single copy seems to have survived is remarkable. Perhaps this presentation and the publication of my essay in Bandwagon, the Journal of the Circus Historical Society, will bring more work by both of these highly eccentric and elusive men to light. And that's the article. This case study, thanks to everybody, this case study underscores the fact that we still have much to learn about the complexity of 19th century interracial networks among photographers and clients in such Midwestern cities as Cincinnati, Chicago, St. Paul, and Denver, where James Goins operated. It also opens new avenues for investigation regarding the advertising, commission, distribution, resale, public and private use, and preservation of photographic portraiture by sitters and consumers throughout the Midwest and nationally. And so, I thank you. That's it. I did want to return to this slide because it's very important to acknowledge Sylvia. Where's Sylvia? There she is. She was tremendously helpful in tracking down information. So thank you. And then when I asked her if I could put her name in the article, she said no, just credit the Historical Society, which is very modest. But here I had to call you out. Just in case you're interested in my forthcoming work, the Playhouse in the Park is doing a show that opens in March on Tenderly, the musical, the Rosemary Clooney musical. So this is my mock-up of the exhibition that will be there, and it is of illustrated sheet music. And then I just concluded this exhibition outside of our college library on Little Women, the novel, because the Playhouse just did a Little Women. And then this is my forthcoming exhibition that will open in late September at UC, and it's called Dare to Stare, 19th Century Circus and Sideshow Portraits. And these are some examples that come from a private collection that will be featured in the show. And then it's going to go to the Ringling Museum. So I just got confirmation of that last week, that they're going to take the show. But museum worlds move in glacial time, so it won't be until 2029 that that opens. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I have a question.
Go for it.
You said he fed those snakes like every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What did he feed?
Do not know. I'm guessing it had to be, I'm guessing it was mice, you know, mice or rats, because they would probably want live food. But I don't know.
He didn't just go to the mice. No, it's probably a good supply of them in downtown.
Yeah. Some people asked why I got interested in this, and it's because in 2024, Photo Focus had a theme called Backstories. And so some of you may know that Photo Focus is a biennial event during which, in the month of October, all cultural institutions try to offer a photography show. Since the theme was backstories, I thought, what if we don't look at the fronts of photographs? What if we looked at the back of them? Because this rose out of my interest in illustration. So older photographs had stamps on the back, some of which was clip art, things that you could just buy, and some of it which was bespoke imagery, like featuring a particular studio. And so I remembered that the former director of the Columbus Museum of Art had a very large collection of cabinet cards, which is what these are. They're about 4 by 6 inches. She's got almost 2,000 of them. And so when I went to see her, she showed me all of those, and that's what I borrowed for a show that I called Verso, the backs of the photographs. But then she said, well, by the way, I actually collect images of people from behind. So then I curated a second show that was called Posteriors. And it was not just of rear ends, it was of whole bodies. But it was really fascinating. This was like a very popular thing to do in the 19th century, to get your picture taken this way and this way, this way. So that was a really fun show. So the theme for this year is called The Long View. And they deliberately make these themes broad enough that you could fit in just about any topic. And so another side interest that Nanette has is in circus and sideshow images. And so that's why I'm working on it. So when I went to see her and look at these circus images last spring, I was really intrigued by the snake women, very interested in them, and but then I noticed this one, and I knew I've done a lot of historical research on James Presley Ball, and I knew that Goins had worked for him, but I had never seen an image by him, and that most intrigued me, and then also that it was a man. I mean, you just usually don't see that many images of men handling the snakes, and so that's why I did a deep dive into this one. Susie.
What is the meaning of the word cabinet card?
So a cabinet card, no one's quite sure where that name came from, but the thought is that unlike earlier forms of photographic imagery, such as the very first form, which was a daguerreotype that was first discovered by Jacques-Louis Mandé Daguerre in 1839, those were generally small, about this big, and then in the 1860s, someone figured out how to make photography with negatives, paper negatives, and so you could get reproductions of those. So those first images were called carte de visite, and they were also small, only about, I guess like 2.5 by 3.5 or 4 inches, and those were called visiting cards because you would get multiples of your pictures taken and leave them at the home of someone you were visiting to say that you had called upon them. Then later in the 1870s, they enlarged these to about 4 by 6 inches, and they called them cabinet cards because people would display them in cabinets or on mantelpieces or in frames. And those are what really popularized celebrity photography because they were bigger. So really not many people showed them in cabinets. People had photo albums, but they were more for display than putting just in photo albums. So that's why they're called cabinet cards. And then about the same time, in the late 19th century, you start to get other kinds of photography like tintypes and stereo cards. And so that's why.